Oi you, it's time for another episode of Dorothy and the Dealer. Let's tune into the conversation.
Do you remember 𝗁𝗵𝗄𝗃?
First you gotta give it, then you gotta let it.
Oh, I don't know if that shows.
Wasn't that Shakin'
I don't know, but this is the song I had in my mind.
Yeah.
This old house was me. This old house was me.
I got a better house, remember?
This old house.
In the middle of a street.
I was in the middle of singing a song.
Dun, 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 dun.
I was in the middle of singing a
Yeah,
song.
but listen, they were both around at the same time, Madness and Shakin' but Madness was definitely better than Shakin'
𝗁𝗵𝗄𝗃 was way before Madness, I reckon.
Nah, Shaky.
Madness was in the 80s.
Shaky and Madness were the same time.
No.
Yep. Guarantee it.
No.
I will confirm that in a moment that I
Are
was
you
correct.
going to get Tash to Google
Yes,
it
we
and
will
find
confirm
out?
and I will come out as correct. Yeah, anyway.
You have
Told
to.
you.
You just have.
Right.
No,
So
no,
now talking about
yes,
houses. So I live in Darrington. I live in a very lovely part of the world, and it's full of really obscure. Every house up there is completely different, and we've just sold the house we moved into when we went up there. When we went
𝗵𝗵𝗺𝗀𝗺.
𝗵𝗵𝗺 house. We just sold 𝗵𝗵𝗺, and in selling 𝗵𝗵𝗺, it was lovely to let go of 𝗵𝗵𝗺.
Was it really?
Well, it
Come on,
kinda
I
is.
think you need to tell
do you
the
know
truth.
why? Do you know why? Because 𝗵𝗵𝗺 was so good to us financially. It was such a good house to us. Financially, we did very, very well out of that.
So
home.
just stop before you even get into that.
And yeah,
When you told me you were moving to Darlington,
yeah.
I was like, nah.
Why?
Because I told you at the time, remember? I felt you'd come from like the city type of living.
Which I had.
And I thought you were going to get sick of being sort of so far away.
Yeah.
And I didn't
But it's
think.
not fucking far away.
No, it's not far away.
It is not far away,
Dude,
guys.
listen
Jesus.
to me. Listen to me. It's not far away. But compare it to where you were,
In the city.
it's further away
I was-
from
yeah,
things
I
than
was in
where you
Como.
were. You were in Como. Like I'm in 𝗵𝗺𝗺. It takes me 10 minutes to get most places,
Oh, that's
right?
so far away.
And so it's
Mate,
quick.
it takes you 10 minutes to get places if you walk really slowly from your apartment. Because fucking everything is so close to your
I
apartment.
know. But what I'm saying with your house, it takes like 25, 30 minutes to get to places,
Yeah,
right? Which is
yeah.
not far.
No.
In Perth terms, it's not because everything is so close in Perth anyway. But I don't know. For some reason, I didn't feel you moving to Darlington was going to, I don't know.
Happen.
No, I knew it was
Gonna
going to happen, but I
continue.
didn't think it was going to last. And also because of Ange. Ange had to move into 𝗵𝗵𝗺𝗺 on her own. Do you remember that?
I do.
We were in relationships and and it happened to be the day, and she had to do and organise all
She
the
was
movies.
freaking out. I think I was away quite a bit at the time as well, so she
You
was
were.
always looping like a fish. But Ange fell madly in love
She
with
did.
𝗵𝗵𝗺 as much as I did. And I mean, 𝗵𝗵𝗺...
You'd probably be to describe the house, though.
Well, it's a 2-story rock and iron home with some weatherboard annexes on it. So, and it's beautiful. The walls are 600 mils thick. It's a 1913 home, and architecturally designed, and it's on an acre. When we bought it, it was on an acre. So it was just magnificent property, like a really, really beautiful property.
And you guys made it nice. It was really
Yeah,
homely.
when we get in, it was shite. It just was shit. And so we get in and we just turned it into something lovely. We brightened it up and, put new kitchens in and, did all that sort of stuff. Redid some of the flooring, rebuilt some of the back area, did all the gardens, and then subdivided off and built another Queenslander-style home off the side of it again, and then sold that off. But that's what I mean. 𝗵𝗵𝗺𝗺 financially was actually very, very good to us, when we were just kicking off. But also because every kid was born in 𝗵𝗵𝗺, and
Well, they were born when you were living in
when we were
𝗵𝗵𝗺.
living in. I don't mean in the kitchen.
Well, some people,
like on the
people
laundry
home
floor.
birth and you didn't.
What's
so I
that
was
over
just
there?
clarifying.
Oh, it's a baby. Go pick it up. All right. Yes. So no, they weren't born on the floor, but it was we have an area of the house where we all write our names, the date, of our all the kids. So
Yeah.
we've got this area that we've wrote all this up. So, and then looking into the history of it, it was such a historic house. I remember walking through walking down the bridle path one day, and there was this couple, and we got talking to them, and it turned out that their grandfather had lived in the house, and they had all these pictures back in the 1920s, and when it was, they were very musical. They would have lots of dances in the house, and it was just. They brought the album around, showed us the album. It was just magical. But then we moved out, and then we've moved around to another bigger property, 3.5 acres around the corner.
First, you moved in next door. But
Yeah,
so all
yeah,
the babies
Gaines.
were born while you were living there.
Yeah.
And then when Oliver was really little, because you were building next door at the time,
Yeah.
and then when Oliver was really little, am I keeping you awake?
Yeah.
When Oliver was really little, you moved next door,
excuse
and then
me.
you moved to the one you're in now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We moved next door just to get rid of capital gains. Built that one next door, that was another beautiful house, lovely house to build, lovely place to live. And then we moved around to where we are now. And this really was the house that we were going to stay in.
Yeah.
But I remember buying this, Ange looked at me and go, God, there's a lot of land here. And I'm like, yeah. She goes, don't even think of chopping this up. Like, you are not subdividing this and telling me I'm moving in 2 years. And I said, no way, babe. And then up until about 5 days ago, Ange would continuously stop me and go, man, I love my house. I love driving up our driveway. We could be in Margaret River here. You'd never know. I absolutely love my house. And I said, oh, that's good. That's really good. So the real estate agent who's selling my old place says to me, real Aussie, Mitch, mate, do you want to own the most beautiful house in Darlington? And I'm like, well, just tell me about it. And he goes, well, I've got this place coming up in the market. It's bloody lovely. And I'm like, right. I said, but don't tell Ange about it. Just tell me about it. And I'll come around and have a look and see if Ange would like it and da-da-da-da-da. But, of course, the minute Ange walks out, the first thing he does is he says it to Ange, because knowing that Ange is going to emotionally buy. So we go around. I look at the pictures, and the pictures are like...
They're pretty cool.
Yeah, they're beautiful. I'm like, wow, this is really nice. And it's on an acre, and it's just had everything done, all the tarmac. It's really nice, really nice. But it's a
really nice.
100-year-old home.
Yeah.
And we go around and we have a look, and we walk in, and before we even got there, Ange just showed the kids the photos on the internet, and Lexi's like, oh, that's going to be my room, and Lola's like, oh, that's going to, and Oliver's like, that's going to be my room. And I'm thinking, oh my God, I'm in for it now. And we get around there. When we pull in, like, it's just beautiful, palatial. It's rich and it's really lovely. Pull in, get out, and walk up into the place, and it's all open and bright and airy, and it actually reminded me of, it's kind of a bit Spanish, a bit Indian. It kind of reminded me of a Haveli in India.
Really, yeah.
It is very, very cool.
I can see that with some parts.
But you have to understand
from the pictures.
From the pictures, but these houses, they're very old and they're not very well. Well, they didn't have straight lines like you do nowadays, right? So, these buildings move. There are a lot of maintenance. You're buying a maintenance nightmare, no matter what. And whenever you move look at a place like this, and there's a shit ton of paint everywhere. Like, they've painted the shit out of everything. That kind of tells you, there's paint covers up things.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it covers up things. But we walked through, and how it was laid out, it's really magnificent. Like, it's got an old stable in it. It's really, really, really beautiful. And Andrew's like, oh, we got to get this. We should go get this. This is a cool house. We should buy this house. And I'm like, no. So one of the things that had happened was the real estate agent had asked me, and I made the mistake. Listen, if you're, never make this mistake. I made the mistake of going. He said to me, I said, what are they looking for? And he goes, mid-twos. And I said, I'd probably give them 2.5. I said, I'd probably give him 2.5. And he goes, all right. And he takes that figure and he takes it to someone else and tells them, and then they offered more, but at a crappy loan rate. And then, so I was really shitty about that, and I let him know that he shouldn't have done that. And but anyway, so we could leave the house, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, she walks around the house and she's like, I just love it. Now, but I'm been renovating houses, I know, buildings for years, and I'm walking around, and it turns out it's a double story. It's actually a triple story.
It's actually third story. I saw that. Yeah.
It's got 3 stories, but on the second story, it used to be a garden. So there was a single story with a garden on the roof. They've got rid of the garden on the roof.
No.
And then they've turned it into a house. So when you walk upstairs, it's all uneven.
You didn't tell me that.
It's all uneven everywhere. All the floors are uneven. Everything's a bit skew-if, But, I mean, it's finished well. And the other thing is that when you walk into houses like these, they're furnished well. So you actually fall in love with the furniture more than you do the property. Do you know what I mean?
The furniture.
Sorry, the furniture more than you do. Not the furniture.
Furnishing.
The person who furnished it.
Oh, okay, got
you
it.
fall in love with the furniture rather than the property itself. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And that's also a mistake. You've got to see, what would this look like with everything out? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And what would the kitchens look like? What would the laundry look like? How would all the amenities look? Does it look Good. Am I giving you 2 away? Up? Yeah. So anyway, we came home. Next morning, all I get is, you know, babe, I really don't like this house. And then the kids come in with literally my Air Place. Like, Air Place is just, we're just too boxed in here. I'm like, we're on 3.5 acres. I said, you're living under 420 square meters of living space. And she goes, yeah, but all the kids are all packed down the bottom that's where the old property was, and we rent it. They're all pushed down the end. And I said, well, that's fine. We'll move one out of there and move them in there. Ollie can get out of me bleeding bed and move into his own bedroom. And, you know, and it's like, but it's like, and I have to really stop because I take it quite personally, you know, because I put my heart and soul into my buildings and what I do. And so I had to just go, no, they've just fallen in love with something else. So then I had to sit with Ange and say, look, you know, we can go for this property, but it's going to be a fucking maintenance nightmare. Because I had Matt go around and have a look at, because I said, just have a look at movement of the walls, because it's rock. Have they patched up the walls? So he went through and came back and said, yeah, look, there's a lot of movement in the house, which you're going to get anyway, because it's on the hills. So he walked around and had a look and came back, and and then I said to her, look, it's going to be a bleeding maintenance nightmare. You know, that's what we're moving into. So I'm caught in this thing now of do we, don't we?
Well, there's other factors involved as well. I think that, you know, at the end of the day, it's a choice you've got to make. Do you know what I mean? In terms of how much money because you don't want to sell the place you're in as well, right?
I was thinking of Airbnb-ing the place.
Yeah, and just, you know, which is fine. You can do all of that, but it's like it limits you to some degree in some ways, right? So you don't want to be limited as well, and you've got all that stuff. So,
but you've also got to refurnish another house.
Yeah,
you know, you got
to furnish 2 houses.
You got to furnish 2 houses. Yep.
So then you told them then that you weren't going to buy the house?
And Lexi was like, Daddy, look, I don't want any Christmas presents and I don't want any birthday presents. I don't want anything anymore from you. And I'm like, Jesus Christ. Like suddenly, just because I said no, I'm the anti.
I said to her when I saw her the other day, bless you. One more coming. You done? I said to her the other day, I said, so how did you feel about the house? She goes, Millie, I cried. Because, you know, Lexi doesn't cry very often, right? She goes, I cried. Like, I really cried. I can't believe we're not getting the house. She was like fully upset about not getting this house. But there's no mistakes at the end of the day. And like you said, what happens is sometimes that we think things on emotion. So I actually want to come back to this. I know that we're just telling a story, but I also want to come back to a lesson or a message here, because your house is your sense of self.
Yeah.
And so the house that you are moving on from, the 𝗵𝗵𝗺𝗀𝗺, you find, because it took you a while. You liked the house. You rented it out for a bit, and it was there. It was always yours.
That's
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Lily and Murphy are buried in the backyards of those two
right.
houses. Every time we drive past, the kids are like, hey, Lily, hey, Murphy, I love you. Like, they do it all the time. It's so cute. They never forget. So it was a decision, like it was a choice that you had to make to sell that house, right? And that was that an emotional decision?
Well,
like, not emotional, but like, what I don't mean the decision itself, is that once you made that decision, did you feel a sense of loss about that house because of it being special, because of the fact that the kids were born there to a degree?
I mean, definitely you've got an attachment to the home.
Yeah.
You know, you've got an attachment to what happened in the home. But it'll always be there, and I'll most likely get to know the people that move into it.
Yeah,
and,
of course, yeah.
So you're always going to have access to it. It's another fuss in the Hall of Fame in your head,
exactly.
in your heart. But you have to move on, you know.
But it's funny how, as you're moving on from that, then now this whole like, even in the kids challenging your house now, and that it challenges your sense of self a little bit.
Right.
And then thinking about perhaps going to another one, it's like another element of just, you know, I feel like how you describe your house is how you describe yourself at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And that's
wide, gaping, empty.
No. But what I mean is, it is a massive representation. Like, for me, when I was in my old house, I loved my house. Like, I absolutely loved it because it was mine. I think it was because I'd purchased it when I was young.
Yeah.
I had it in, like, I never moved into it for years. And I moved into it, and it was horrible in lots of ways. It was 70s decor. I ended up renovating it. Renovating.
I ended up renovating my house.
Parts of it, but at the end of the day, it was still a house, and it was oldish. But I loved it because it was my space.
Yeah.
And I always wanted an apartment, but I was very, very particular about what I wanted in an apartment.
Yeah.
Like I knew what I would compromise on and what I wouldn't compromise on.
Right.
And I got everything I wanted in my apartment. When I saw my apartment, I knew, and in a way I got a bit scared because I knew that this was like it was this whole thing. This was my new place I was going to go, and it's taken me now almost 4 years out of my house, and I'm ready to sell mine now. Not because once I moved out, I realised that I wouldn't go back because there was a part of it that was dark. It wasn't lit up. It was secluded. I didn't really have people visit me there in lots of, because it wasn't just because of the way it was laid out. And as much as I loved it because it was my space, it was time to move.
Yeah.
But I still couldn't let go of it. Now I'm ready to let go of it because I know I'm not going to go back in there. But it's funny how you move on. Like if I was to go and live there now, I don't think I would love it the same way because I feel like energetically sometimes it takes a minute to move on and to be okay with leaving that part of yourself as a chapter. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? For me, definitely. It is. I was not a person that moved around a lot when I was a kid. I lived in one house. Yeah. Right. Well, I think I lived in two, but I was too young to know the first. So right. I lived in one house my whole life, and I still go back. That's where Mum lives, so I still go back there all of the time. I see that place all the time. To leave a part of yourself, I think it's a feeling. It's a space where you have to say that part of my journey is no longer. It was served me and it was beautiful for what it was. But anybody else coming and looking at my house would not consider it beautiful. Just because it was just perfect for me, if that makes sense, in that moment where I needed it to be. People come into my house now and they love it, like, because it represents me more. It's a space that I feel fits, you know. And
but it's the whole process of moving and the whole process of, when you moving is, it's a very physical, mental, spiritual metamorphosis. It's very
really is.
Yeah, fuck, it's big.
It really is
because you really have to leave something behind. And I've tried to sell that other house 3 times. I haven't been able to sell it.
I know. So it was
I've
like
had
you were
offers
ready.
and everything on it, and I haven't been able to sell it.
Yeah, isn't that funny? Because
like 2 years ago, we couldn't sell that house for little over 900 grand. Yeah, and we've just sold it for like
more than that,
way more than that.
Yeah, and I think it's a funny thing because that's that house we've been talking about it on and off. Like, are you going to sell it? Da 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 da. And now it's happening, and it's obviously like, I don't know, just there's energetically some shifts happening that you feel like. Yeah. That the inner world has shifted to a degree, and the outer world now starts to represent that inner world shift. Well, do you know what I mean?
That's right. That's right.
But it is definitely interesting feeling like just even the thought of me selling that house. You used to tell me ages, move into an apartment. And I always wanted to, but I didn't want to move into anything. I remember Ange, when she first walked into my apartment, she went, I never expected this. And I'm like, what did you think? I wasn't going to move into from one house and then move into something that was like, special. You know what I mean? I just couldn't do that.
But some of the apartments that are around at the moment, like I look at Tasha's place, like, holy shit. Yeah. Like, for what you get for your money. Like, it's just, I was looking at the images going, fucking thing is like a hotel. And it's better than a hotel. Like, it's just absolutely
really, really cool,
spectacularly gorgeous. Do you know what I mean?
I agree.
Just bonkers.
I know, I agree. Well, for me, mine is probably not the hotel resort sort of feel for the amenities. Mine is for the view. Yeah. Like there was people on the weekend staying at the Crown, and I was like, they were posting it on Instagram. Like, I get that view every single day, and I love it. Yeah, I love it. Yeah. So
for not a lot.
For not a lot, yeah. So, but it's interesting. It's good work to do to go, right, what parts of myself am I actually leaving behind in this? And then what parts do I have to be okay with in what I've got? Because I don't think, have you spoken to them about the reality of that house, or have you just said, no, we're not getting the house? Like in terms of the
I've
kids?
spoke to Ange about it. You can't speak to the kids because
I
you
don't
just
agree.
No, I'll tell you why. Because it's out of their mind now.
Mm-hmm.
And you try to talk to them about it, and it goes back into their mind. It goes, but why? Even if you tell them, their answer every time is, yeah, but why can't we just buy it? And I'm like, because of this. Okay, but why can't we just buy it? And I'm like, because of this. You know?
I think
and
that
this, and so do you understand, guys, that this is why we can't do it? You know, and they don't understand economic markets really as much as you don't want to frighten them, you know?
Yeah, but I think that I agree that if it's out of their minds, you shouldn't, like, there's no need for it because they're not asking. But if they ask, I think you can absolutely tell them.
Yeah.
Like I'd say to Lex, so when I had a look, like, this is some of the things that people do when they're trying to sell a house. They're doing these sorts of things. So these are some of the problems we would have with it. And this is some of the things, like, and she would totally get that. 100% she'd get that, I reckon.
Yeah.
And then going and just in her level, though, I think
No. You couldn't bring it up at Lex, mate. Do you know
I'm
what?
not
She
saying
literally was
I'm not
devastated.
saying bring it up with her. I agree with you. You shouldn't bring it up if she's done it. But if she brings it up, then I think you can actually communicate it to her because I think she would understand. But it's how you talk to her. I think you've got to talk to her as if she does understand, and then she will.
Yeah,
That's my
maybe.
opinion on it.
Maybe.
My 2 cents worth. Anyway, it'll be interesting to see how it goes. Are you now thinking?
Well, there was another offer put in. I was going to put an offer in, and then he tried to hike me up, and I was really shitty. I was like, no, you should never have done that. That wasn't a cool thing to do. And the other offer got knocked back.
There you go.
And then he came back and he's like, so do you want to put that offer in? I'm like, I'm not putting the offer in that you're asking me to put in.
Yeah.
So you go and see if you can sell it now. Coming into summer now, because it starts to get hot, less people want to turn up to these things. You turn up, you walk straight onto a black 𝗵𝗻𝗃𝗀𝗃, you're getting roasted. You know, it starts to become a psychological, hey, you know.
Do you think, though, would you still want to look at that house or would you look at other houses?
I'm open to looking at other houses.
Now.
What I want to do now is just there's a bit of finishing off on my place. I want to get the gardens done, some finishing off done.
Yeah.
Once I have that done, then I think the girls and Ange will be like, nah, we're not moving from here. Our property is just too good a property.
It really is.
It's a magnificent
It's a lovely property.
It really is.
There's
beautiful.
a few things that need to change inside the house, but it's a lovely property.
Yeah, it's only 25 minutes out of the city. Right.
So it's not that far.
All right.
Cool. Sense of self, hey?
Hey, whether this is you at the beginning of your personal development journey or you're perhaps immersed in your growth and transformation, at MJB Seminars, we have everything to help you live an inspired life.
If this episode resonated and you're looking for more information on how to have an actual breakthrough and transform your life, visit us over at mjbseminars.com.au and book yourself in for a complimentary discovery coaching call.
Also, make sure you like and follow us over on Instagram and Facebook. And review and subscribe to Dorothy and the Dealer today.